The suspect allegedly used the card to travel from D.C. to a stop in Falls Church after planting the pipe bombs. The Air Force civilian purchased the card a year earlier. So this neighbor is like, yeah. The paper comes up. Is this the pipe bomber? Does that kind of match your neighbor? He's like, yes, yeah, that looks just like her. Following the interview from Person of Interest 2, the FBI ruled out both of them as possible persons of interest, and maybe the whole thing is just a coincidence, or maybe there's more to the story. A new pipe bomber whistleblower now reaching out to Thomas Massie. We got just a snippet of the 11-page disclosure that he got delivered to him, and he says, if we combine all of these various new stories, including his own questioning of witnesses, Thomas Massie while in Congress asking questions of FBI Director Wray and others, reporting by Steve Baker and the crew over at The Blaze in this report about Shawnee Kirkhoff, the alleged January 6th pipe bomber, who may have just been a trainee, somebody who was in the middle of an exercise on January 5th, had no idea what the hell was going on January 6th, walking around, maybe fully endorsed by the Capitol Hill Police Department. We don't know. We just have questions about it. And this is the best theory that anybody has come up with from our government, and our government, from anywhere, including our government, and our government has been completely silent about any of this. They put out a $500,000 reward. They said, public, help us. We can't find anybody anywhere unless you're a J6er or you protested at an abortion clinic or something. Then we'll invade your home. But please help us. Steve Baker and Hanneman, they came out. They said, oh yeah, here's some help. Can you validate this for us? They said, no, we don't even want to talk to you about it. Get out of here. Don't ask us questions about it. They haven't said anything. So now we have a new whistleblower from Thomas Massie. They said, based on my questioning, Steve Baker, The Blaze, this new 11-pager, I believe management at the FBI, says Thomas, has been covering up or has been grossly incompetent. Yeah, either one. Revelations about the pipe bomb investigation require answers, Kash Patel, and he's not said anything about this, but he is talking about fentanyl today. So here's what the whistleblower document says. The Honorable Thomas Massie receiving this over in the congressional building. It says, this is protected disclosure by an FBI employee to the United States Congress relating to gross misconduct by the agency. November 10, 2025, went to Massie. I'm presuming this is an active FBI employee because it says disclosure by an FBI employee, not a former FBI employee, an FBI employee. Dear Congressman Massie, pursuant to the law, please accept the following as a protected disclosure from this person in this agency relating to serious misconduct by the FBI. This person in this position, he or she believes that there was gross misconduct and or fraud in the January 6th U.S. Capitol pipe bombing case, and is providing this information to show that after FBI agents came within yards of the person who has been identified as the likely pipe bomber, the FBI surveillance team agents were ordered to cease their investigation. They were denied permission to conduct at least one logical interview, immediately removed from the surveillance, and reassigned to do general leads work. And that corroborates what Kyle Seraphin reported to The Blaze that they published in their article. But here's, as a reminder, what The Blaze said. This woman, her name, Shawnee Kirkhoff, and at the time of this incident, she was a government employee. And according to all reports that we see, she is still a government employee. And so we've got questions about our government and the performance of their duties. And I understand not wanting to go after a private citizen or somebody. These are strong accusations and everybody's skittish. Nobody wants to be sued for defamation or any of these things, but she works for the government, and the agencies should respond to allegations that they have themselves incubated by asking for the public's help. The public is helping FBI. The public is helping Capitol Hill Police. You guys put out rewards for this. We're trying to help. So can you help us help you? Can you just respond to something for once? So here they write Shawnee Kirkhoff. She hasn't denied any of this. And again, we're not accusing her of any wrongdoing. She may have been following orders from somebody else. But we got a gate analysis. A software algorithm analyzes the gate. And here's more from Kyle Seraphin and this part of the report. They were close to the bomb suspect, okay? The FBI, which has failed to solve the case for nearly 5 years of investigations after they corrupted the cell phone data and then didn't look into it anymore, but indicated that it was closing in after The Blaze reported on this. They said that according to intelligence sources, the FBI was just feet from the Falls Church address of the pipe bomb suspect after J6, according to this investigation. Former FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin, he realized on Friday before this article went live that he was doing surveillance next door to the woman now suspected of being the pipe bomber. Okay, so Daily Wire, Julie Kelly, they went over, they talked to these neighbors, not the pipe bomber, but the people. The FBI put us one door away from the suspected pipe bomber within days of January 6th, and then we were deliberately pulled away for no logical or logically investigative reason. And everything about that tells me that they were involved in a cover-up and have been since day one. Serafin said they were effing in on it, and he was going to just go over there and knock on the door and talk to them. At the door of an Air Force civilian employee whose address was tied to a vehicle that picked up the bomb suspect in this location. Serafin's team spent 2 days watching the man, but Serafin, in his request to go face-to-face, was denied. Instead, they pulled them off the case. Serafin has given the same details publicly since 2021. He said, there's a personal reaction to this, which is complete vindication of everything I've been saying. We were right there. How did they track it back to this location? The FBI tied a DC Metro Rail smart trip card, allegedly used by the pipe bomb suspect, to an Air Force civilian employee, a neighbor, but determined that while the man purchased the card, he did not use the card. The suspect allegedly used the card to travel from DC to a stop in Falls Church after planting the pipe bombs. The Air Force civilian purchased the card a year earlier. So we're trying to figure out where'd the card come from, where'd the card go. They trace it back. FBI's looking at this building and they do a gate analysis. They say, yeah, it's her. And she was also up there shooting projectiles at people in the face. All right, so we know the rest of the story. We went through the full article here on the channel, but then we had some other reporting. So let's start with Julie Kelly. She's over on X at Julie_Kelly2. She's digging into this. She says, I spoke this morning with the individual believed to be person of interest 3. So person 3 in the original pipe bomb investigation on January 6th. I will not name this individual to protect his privacy since he just found out today by me that he had been under FBI surveillance for allowing another individual, person 2, to use his Metro card to travel to DC for a Stop the Steal event. Number 2 then, the person who was going to use the card, according to a congressional report, was seen on security cameras on the morning of J5, photographing a dumpster next to the location where the pipe bombs would later be planted. This guy's out there taking pictures for like his picture book of dumpsters. In the days after J6, the FBI considered this person's movements. Why are you taking pictures of these dumpsters right around this area? They said this guy is highly suspicious, and they considered person 2, who is, a friend of the neighbor, as a possible accomplice to the pipe bomber. Both person 2 and person 3 were placed under physical surveillance. Okay, so that might be Serafin's team. Number 2 told investigators, because they said, why are you taking these photos? He said, well, I like to take pictures. I traveled to Washington, D.C. to attend a First Amendment activity on Capitol Hill on Jan 5, and throughout the day, I, person 2, photographed objects bearing numerals, including doors, dumpsters, and other objects, and I was going to use these photographs in a book that I'm writing. It's like, all right. Now, both men were ruled out as suspects. The guy who bought the ticket, the guy who gave the ticket to his friend, and the friend who used the ticket, all exonerated. Both men were ruled out as suspects by late January 21. Now, person number 3 is a 66-year-old man currently employed by the Air Force. Here is what he told me about the use of his Metro card by his friend. So person 3 is the neighbor right next to where Shawnee Kirchhoff is living. Person 3 says his statement. Well, I have a friend who came up for the J6 Stop the Steal protest. He lives out of state. I've known him since 1969. He went to elementary and high school together. He's, from my understanding, not affiliated with anything illegal or immoral. He's kind of like an evangelist, a religious educator who goes all around the world preaching the gospel, but he's very Republican, very pro-Trump person. He's probably 67 years old. He was probably 63 on January 6th. He came up a day before or a couple days before the J6 date, and I took him to the Metro. He stayed at my house. I took him to the Metro, and I let him borrow my Metro card. I have an extra Metro card. I have one that I use to ride the Metro every day, and one that I keep as my personal thing. This was during the pandemic, so I was working from home the entire time. So he went downtown the day prior to J6, and he was downtown on J6. I know he was doing some type of journaling for the event. I know he posted some stuff on Facebook. He was keeping a log telling everybody about all the events and activities that took place. And then I think on the 7th of January, I took him back to Dulles to catch his flight. He came up again for the inauguration this year, and I let him stay at my house again. Now that relates to my friend who I've known since elementary school, who I grew up with. He says, I live next door to this individual who supposedly is identified as the pipe bomber. From everything I've heard, I lived in this house in Falls Church, Virginia since 2003. So in 2021, they had moved in the year before. Her, Shawnee, and a gentleman, her boyfriend. I knew them purely in passing exchanges, pleasantries on the streets. I never went into their house, so I don't have any idea of their political leanings in any way, shape, or form. This is the neighbor. Now, I've been contacted, and I did look into the paper, and when a picture of this supposed person came up, I said, yeah, that looks like her. So this neighbor is like, yeah. The paper comes up. Is this the pipe bomber? Does that kind of match your neighbor? He's like, yes, yeah, that looks just like her. Yeah, because I think humans personally, I don't know about you, but I have this, I think internally, is you can see and understand gates of your friends and family like a fingerprint. That's how you can identify identify, your friend or somebody at a sports game all the way down. All the haircuts look the same, but the way they're moving, oh, there he is. Okay, just go meet him over there. You can just sense it. So he sees this lady coming and going all the time. He's like, yeah, that's a good match. Nailed it. All I can say is that there's two people involved in this that I know. My friend, who I went to elementary school with and high school together, who asked for a favor to let him stay at my house during the J6 rally. But as it relates to this lady, this policeman, Capitol Hill woman, other than her living next door to me, I have no involvement with her in any way, shape, or form. It was my understanding they work for the Metro PD. That's all I know. And they were not here that long. They just live next door to me. She says I'll have much more to say on this shortly. And she disagrees, Julie Kelly, with the Blaze and Seraphin, and says this account of what happened is straightforward. He's extremely sincere. He talked plainly about what happened. And this is why surveillance of this ended. Okay, so the disagreement here is Kyle Seraphin is saying we got pulled off of surveillance because we were a little bit too close to Shawnee. Seraphin says, I want to go and talk to these dudes who we think used a card that we've backtraced to this location. FBI says, no. We've already validated. We already talked to these guys. So we're pulling you off of that. I think a plausible explanation could also be that if Seraphin went to go talk to these people, it would have confirmed that they had no idea what was going on about a pipe bomb or anything. And then it would have led to more questions being asked about how they got here. And that might lead to questions of the neighbors, and it might actually open the door to more questions, not less. So they could have been pulled off because it was a dead end, or they could have been pulled off because they were too close. And if they went to go talk to these people, then the response would have been, something is very wrong here. Do you have your card? We're here to investigate a Metro card. Do you have that card here? Can I see it? Where'd it go? You don't have it? Your friend has it? Who's your friend? Where'd they go? Okay, can maybe they get it? Did they say they lost it? Did they say they threw it out? Did they say it was dead? What happened with it? Can you show it to us? Nope, no questions, no physical interfacing. You guys are pulled off of this, and now you are protecting, right? They're investigating the envelope. They're close, but not there. It's like hotter, too hot. All right, so now you're pulled off the case, and now we got to dump you out somewhere else. So I think it could be either one. But she's talked to this guy and says, this is not a whistleblower report. Julie Kelly is, I think, not in favor of the current story as it is being presented. But she's not the only one who talked to these people. We also see that Luke Rosiak over from the Daily Wire went over there and says, the man who owned the Metro card that law enforcement believed was linked to a person of interest on J6 spoke with the Daily Wire, saying it was not his neighbor, Shawnee, the Capitol Hill officer, who used the card, but in fact, it was just a friend of his. The man, an Air Force veteran who requested anonymity to avoid his name being leaked, lived next door to the Capitol police officer named in a story by the Blaze on Saturday. The report said, we did a gate analysis and we know who did this. The theory gained secondary support. Okay, it was corroborated. It wasn't just like an algorithmic gate analysis. We also had Kyle Seraphin saying, wait, who? Shawnee Kirkhoff? Where does she live? Here? We were staking out that house, basically, the one right next door. He says, that's bizarre. So we did have some evidence that brought us into this arena. The theory gained support from the fact that she lived next door to somebody who had already separately been on law enforcement's radar, something that seemed like a mathematically improbable coincidence. What a shocker. The Daily Wire confirmed that law enforcement suspected a particular Falls Church, Virginia man and his Metro card of being linked to the case, and also that the Capitol police officer was in fact his neighbor, literally sharing a wall with the guy. So the Daily Wire went over there. They interviewed the dude. He said it was his understanding that the neighboring unit was in fact occupied by two Capitol police officers, the female and her boyfriend, two Capitol Hill cops right next to the Metro card that looked like it was a pipe bomber card. But he does not believe that his Metro card was used by police on J5. He told the Daily Wire it was used by a childhood friend who traveled from the South to attend Trump's rally and stayed with him to save money. The vet let him borrow his card and picked him up from the Metro station after the rally, he said. Both men are Trump supporters, man, shout out. About a week later, in 2021, he got a call from law enforcement. He believes it was the Metro Transit Police asking who used the card. Former FBI employee Kyle Seraphin told the Daily Wire 2 years ago, it's not new, that he was assigned to stake out that address because the FBI believed a person of interest in the bomb case swiped through the subway gates using that card. The Air Force veteran, a tall black man, immediately gave the police the name of his friend, who's a white man, 5'10", 5'11", he told the Daily Wire. Other than that call from the transit police, all I've ever heard about it. FBI didn't go and ask him any questions. Can we see the card? He got a phone call? The FBI didn't go knock on this dude's door and say, where's that card? Like, is it a plastic card that you reused? Do you have it? Where is it? Other than that call, that's all I ever heard about it. No one else came to talk to him at all. Kyle Seraphin wanted to go knock on his door and ask a couple questions, and he was pulled off. The Air Force vet said he went to school with the man decades ago, but had not remained in touch until reconnecting connecting over social media. The vet is 66 years old, happy Veterans Day, making the friend about the same age. He said the friend spent large portions of each year in foreign countries spreading Christianity. He would probably be the last person on God's green earth that could be involved in doing anything like that, which is what they always say. After receiving the call from the police, the flummoxed vet called his friend to tell him what had happened. I said, "Do you have a secret life that I don't know about?" He said, "No." Now, by that time, law enforcement already made contact with his friend as well. When I told him about it, he told me he did have a conversation with those folks. The police seemingly ruled him out as a suspect. The Air Force vet also declined to name the Southern Evangelical to the Daily Wire, but said he had provided the name to police and he would fully cooperate with any law enforcement or court inquiry if they cared. He said the friend came back to town for Donald Trump's second inauguration, where he annoyed the vet by insisting on wearing a Trump hat. He's wearing his MAGA hat everywhere. I felt like, oh my God, how did I get myself involved in this? That time he said, "You have to stay in a hotel, man. I can't deal with your hat. Get out of here." Now, the development does not rule out the fact that the police officer identified by the blaze could be the pipe bomber. However, the theory would solely rest now only on gate analysis. And again, I don't see how that is exactly. So if the pipe bomb, like, where's the card? Does anybody know where the card is? So a friend could have used the card and maybe somebody else used that same card. And the fact that these people were not the pipe bombers doesn't mean that the FBI's evidence that led them to surveil wasn't accurate and that they were damn close. And maybe they were pulled off because they were too close. And this training exercise was brought to their attention and they said, all right, here's what went down. Can you not clone a card? Can you not connect them to another ID or something like that? I mean, if this is an operation, I don't know. But I still think that even if you pull the people off of the surveillance, it doesn't invalidate that they were there surveilling that area because there was evidence that brought them there. Now, on January 25, a congressional report on the J6 pipe bomb compiled by Loudermilk described a similar lead. According to the FBI, after taking pictures of the dumpster, person of interest 2 walked around the Capitol complex, met with 2 other subjects, returned to the same alleyway behind the RNC, then entered the Capitol, rode to the Falls in Virginia. Now, notably, the agents assigned to the case team determined that person 2 used an Uber account and a Metro Smart Trip card to person 3 who was in that area. The FBI's case team considered this person's movements highly suspicious. In the weeks that followed, the FBI directed significant resources, placed them both under physical surveillance out of the Washington field office. They obtained grand jury subpoenas for the cell phone data associated with those numbers. With help from the Capitol Police, the FBI also tracked the movements of 2 unidentified subjects that they met with while walking around the Capitol. Then on the 19th, FBI agents interviewed person 2 and eliminated that person, not the bomber. According to a summary of the interview by the subcommittee, says he traveled there on J5 and throughout the day photographed objects bearing numerals, and a review of the cell phone and the photographs seemed to corroborate the story. However, the interview summary does not elaborate further on how the case team verified the story. Following the interview from person of interest 2, the FBI ruled out both of them as possible persons of interest, and maybe the whole thing is just a coincidence, or maybe there's more to the story. So Kyle Seraphin was asked about this. So we saw over in this post, somebody said, okay, if Kirchhoff is the bomber, this is a crazy coincidence. We need to know more about Steve Baker and his investigation. We're still waiting for more from him. Did he find out that Kirchhoff lived next to this person before the gate analysis or after the gate analysis? Okay. Does he know that the Metro card brought them there and then found out, oh, there's a Capitol Police officer living next door after he learned about the Metro card? Or did the gate analysis come first and he says, hang on a minute, this looks like the Capitol Police officer. Where is this person? And then they say, well, were we in this area? Then they say, we were. Kyle Seraphin was right there. What was the sequence? Seraphin came out. He said, after the gate analysis, okay, Steve Baker found the address, identified Shawnee. Then he called me and said, hey, we found this person. We think the gate analysis has brought us to this lady. Then he says, well, where does she live? Right there. He says, I was right there. I was surveilling her. Dun, dun, dun. He independently ended up at an address that I was at 5 years ago. So if you trust their sequencing and the way this went down, it's a wild coincidence, okay, if that is true. And it makes all the sense in the world that this was some sort of a training operation, not even saying this woman did anything wrong, other than maybe criminal littering or something like that. If it's a training op, these are inert explosives, you have cover from your Capitol Police officers or FBI or whomever to do it, then we should be able to know more about that. And the FBI or the Capitol Police should come out and protect their agents and disavow all of this so we can all stop speculating about it after the FBI invited us to do so by offering a $500,000 reward. Now they're just being mum about it. So we've got a couple competing theories. Julie Kelly seemingly saying that there's not enough there. Seems like a big fat coincidence. On the other hand, we've got some interesting connections where cards and Capitol Police or ending up as neighbors right next to each other after we've got some other corroborating evidence in the form of gait analysis that is seemingly connecting the dots.